I'm Eleanor, 67, and I never thought my daughter's bridal shower would be the day our relationship changed forever. The country club sparkled with expensive decorations as Amanda celebrated with her wealthy friends. I'd written the check for everything: the gourmet catering, the champagne, the flowers, hoping to feel included in my only child's special day. Then Amanda took the microphone, smiled at her friends, and announced, "Mom's only here because she paid for the food." The room went silent. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about standing up for yourself when family takes you for granted. I wasn't always the mother who just paid the bills. I grew up in a small Ohio town where my father worked at the factory, and my mother cleaned houses to make ends meet. Every dollar was accounted for, every expense justified. College wasn't an option for me. I went straight to work as a receptionist at a local business after high school. Through night classes and determination, I eventually earned my accounting degree and slowly climbed the corporate ladder. When I met Amanda's father, Frank, we were both ambitious 20-somethings with dreams of a better life than our parents had. We married young, bought a tiny starter home, and saved every penny. When I got pregnant with Amanda at 28, it was the happiest day of our lives. Frank and I promised each other our child would have every opportunity we didn't. Those early years with Amanda were magical. She was a bright, curious child with Frank's dimples and my stubborn determination. I still remember her first steps across our living room, her tiny hand clutching my finger on the first day of kindergarten, the proud smile when she learned to ride a bike. Frank's technology company took off when Amanda was 7, and suddenly our financial situation changed dramatically. We moved to a bigger house in a better neighborhood with excellent schools. When Amanda was 15, Frank's company went public, and overnight, we became wealthy in a way I had never imagined possible. Amanda adjusted to our new status quickly, perhaps too quickly. The sweet girl who once made me handmade birthday cards was suddenly concerned with designer labels and which friends had swimming pools. I tried to instill our original values, but Frank often overruled me. "Let her enjoy it," he'd say. We worked hard so she wouldn't have to struggle like we did. By the time Amanda left for an expensive private university, the distance between us had grown. She joined a sorority filled with girls from wealthy families, spent spring breaks at exotic locations with her new friends, and came home less frequently. I missed our shopping trips and movie nights, but I told myself this was normal. She was growing up, finding her own path. Frank and I divorced when Amanda was in her junior year of college. The marriage had been failing for years, two people who had grown in different directions. The settlement left me financially secure, but emotionally adrift. Amanda seemed to blame me for the divorce, growing closer to her father, who now lived in a penthouse downtown and dated women barely older than she was. When Amanda met Bradley 3 years ago, I had hopes it might bridge our growing divide. She brought him to Sunday dinner, and he was polite, handsome, and clearly besotted with my daughter. He came from old money, the kind of wealth that's spoken of in whispers, with family homes in 3 countries and a last name that opened doors. I tried to connect with him, asking about his work as an investment banker, his hobbies, his family. His answers were always polite but brief, as if conversing with his girlfriend's middle-aged mother was an obligation to be endured rather than enjoyed. As their relationship progressed, Amanda became increasingly embedded in Bradley's world. Charity galas, yacht club memberships, weekends in the Hamptons, a lifestyle even beyond what our family's comfortable wealth had provided. When they called to announce their engagement, Amanda was bubbling with excitement. "Bradley's parents are thrilled," she told me. "They're planning an engagement party at the country club next month." I waited for an invitation that never came. When I finally called to ask about it, Amanda sounded uncomfortable. "It's just a small family thing, Mom. Bradley's mother, Catherine, is handling everything." That became a pattern over the next year of wedding planning. Catherine handled everything. I was occasionally consulted but rarely included. When I offered to help financially, Amanda accepted readily, but my input on how that money would be spent was unwelcome. "Catherine knows everyone in the industry," Amanda would say. "She's friends with all the best vendors." The bridal shower became my last attempt to be meaningfully involved. "Let me host it," I offered during a rare lunch with Amanda. "I'd love to do this for you." Amanda hesitated before agreeing. That would be nice, Mom. But Catherine has some specific ideas. Would you mind if she helped coordinate? What followed were weeks of emails and calls with Catherine, who had opinions about everything from the venue to the napkin colors. The country club where Bradley's family had been members for generations was the only appropriate venue. The guest list grew from 30 to 60. The simple lunch I had envisioned transformed into an elaborate affair with a 5-course meal, champagne fountain, and professional photographer. Each time the budget increased, I swallowed my objections and wrote another check. This was for Amanda, I told myself. This was my chance to show her how much I loved her, to rebuild the bridge between us that had been slowly crumbling for years. The week before the shower, I called Amanda to confirm the final details. Everything's set, she said, sounding distracted. Catherine's handling the last-minute things. I was thinking I could come early to help set up, I offered. Oh, that's not necessary. The bridesmaids are coming at 9 to decorate. Jessica's got it all organized. Jessica was Amanda's maid of honor, a sorority sister I'd met only twice. She had perfectly highlighted hair, a perpetual vocal fry, and seemed to look through me rather than at me. Well, I'd still like to come early, I persisted. After all, I am the host. A brief silence. Sure, Mom. Whatever you want. As I hung up, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was an afterthought in an event I was financing. But I pushed the thought away. This was Amanda's special time. It wasn't about me. The day before the shower, I woke to a flurry of last-minute details. The florist called to confirm the delivery time for the centerpieces. 20 arrangements at $75 each. The bakery needed final approval on the custom cookies shaped like wedding dresses and diamond rings. The country club manager wanted to review the bar tab limits and menu selections one last time. I handled each call efficiently, the way I'd managed budgets and projects throughout my career. Though I winced at the final numbers, I reminded myself that this was a special occasion. You can't put a price on making your only daughter happy, I thought. Mid-morning, my phone chimed with a notification. It was Amanda, tagged in Instagram photos from the night before. I scrolled through images of her with her bridesmaids at an expensive restaurant downtown, champagne glasses raised in elegant toasts. Pre-shower celebrations with my favorite people. Read the caption. I hadn't known about any pre-shower event. I tried not to feel hurt. Young people have their own traditions now, I reasoned. But as I continued scrolling, I noticed more photos from earlier in the week. A spa day, a shopping trip, even a special afternoon tea. All pre-shower activities I knew nothing about. My phone rang, startling me out of my thoughts. It was my sister Patricia. Just checking to see if you need anything for tomorrow, she said. Patricia was 5 years older than me, practical and direct in a way I'd always admired. She was the only person besides me from our side of the family who had been invited to the shower. I think everything's covered, I replied, trying to sound cheerful. The club is handling most of it. Have you seen the photos from Amanda's week of festivities? Patricia asked, cutting to the chase as usual. Just now, I admitted. I didn't know about any of it. Patricia's sigh carried through the phone. Eleanor, this has gone far enough. That girl is taking advantage of your generosity, while treating you like an ATM, not a mother. She's just caught up in Bradley's world, I defended, though my voice lacked conviction. And his mother can be overwhelming. That's no excuse, Patricia said firmly. You're paying for this elaborate shower, and they didn't even include you in the lead-up events? That's not right, and you know it. Deep down, I did know it. But acknowledging the problem meant facing the painful reality of how far apart Amanda and I had grown. What am I supposed to do? I asked. Cancel the shower? That would only push her further away. No, Patricia said. But you need to stand up for yourself. Stop letting them treat you like this. You deserve better, Eleanor. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet living room, thinking about Patricia's words. On the mantel was a photo of Amanda at her high school graduation, beaming as I stood beside her with my arm around her shoulders. When had that closeness disappeared? And how much of it was my fault for always giving in, always trying to buy her approval? I spent the afternoon wrapping Amanda's shower gift, a delicate sapphire necklace that had belonged to my grandmother. I'd had it reset in a more modern style, hoping it might become Amanda's something blue for the wedding. I wrote a heartfelt card expressing my love and pride, trying to bridge the gap between us with words where actions had failed. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined walking into the country club alone, facing the judgment of Catherine and her friends, trying to find my place in a celebration I was funding but not truly part of. Around 3 a.m., I got up and made a cup of tea, sitting by the window as the night sky slowly lightened into dawn. By morning, something had shifted inside me. I was tired of feeling like an outsider in my daughter's life. Tired of writing checks to prove my love while receiving little respect in return. But I was also determined not to create a scene or ruin Amanda's day. I would go to the shower with my head held high, be gracious to everyone including Catherine, and try one more time to connect with my daughter. I dressed carefully in a pale blue dress I'd bought specifically for the occasion, styled my silver hair in soft waves, and applied makeup with extra care. Looking in the mirror, I saw a woman who had weathered many storms in her 6 decades of life. I could weather this one too. As I gathered my purse and keys, my phone chimed with a text from Amanda. Bridesmaids running late. No need to come early after all. I texted back a simple, okay, and set off for the country club, a complicated mix of hope and resignation stirring in my heart. I arrived at the Lakeside Country Club exactly at 11, an hour before the shower was scheduled to begin. The April morning was picture-perfect sunshine spilling across manicured lawns, dogwood trees in full bloom along the circular drive. The grandeur of the club had always intimidated me slightly, with its colonial architecture and hushed, expensive atmosphere. At the entrance to the Magnolia Room, I was met by a harried-looking event coordinator checking items off a clipboard. "I'm Eleanor Montgomery," I said, "Amanda Taylor's mother. I'm hosting the shower today." The woman consulted her list. "Oh yes, Mrs. Montgomery. The catering staff is just finishing setup. The wedding party hasn't arrived yet." I stepped into the room and caught my breath. It was beautiful. There was no denying that. Round tables draped in cream linens filled the space, each centered with a lush arrangement of pink peonies and white roses. Crystal champagne flutes caught the light from the chandeliers overhead. Along one wall, a table displayed an elaborate 3-tiered cake surrounded by those custom cookies I'd approved. "Excuse me," I said to a passing waiter. "I'd like to check on the lunch menu. I'm the host." He directed me to the catering manager, a brisk woman named Diane who walked me through the final arrangements. 5-course meal, premium open bar, champagne toast, custom desserts, the works. When she handed me the final invoice to sign, the number at the bottom made me blink. $5,243.87. "This is higher than the last estimate," I noted. "Yes, there were some last-minute additions," Diane explained. "Mrs. Preston, the groom's mother, requested the premium champagne upgrade and added the chocolate fountain station yesterday." Of course she did, I thought, signing the paper. Catherine Preston making decisions about my money without consulting me. A perfect summary of the entire wedding planning experience. I was tucking the receipt into my purse when I heard a burst of laughter from the entrance. Amanda had arrived with her bridesmaids, a flutter of pastel dresses and glossy hair. My daughter looked radiant in a white lace dress, her dark hair swept up elegantly. For a moment, seeing her so happy, I forgot all my reservations. "Amanda," I called, moving toward her with open arms. "Everything looks beautiful." She accepted my hug briefly, already looking over my shoulder. "Thanks, Mom. Did the florist use the right shade of pink?" I told Catherine it had to be blush, not hot pink. "Everything's perfect," I assured her. "The flowers are exactly what you wanted." Amanda nodded distractedly. "Great. Oh, Jessica needs me for something." She was gone before I could say another word, swept up in a huddle with her maid of honor and bridesmaids. I stood awkwardly for a moment before making my way back to check on the gift table. The next 20 minutes passed in a blur of arrivals. Catherine Preston made her entrance in a designer suit that probably cost more than my entire outfit, flanked by a group of elegantly coiffed women I recognized as her country club friends. She gave me a cool air kiss when Amanda introduced us. "Eleanor, how nice to see you," she said, her eyes already scanning the room. "The flowers are lovely. though I would have gone with the white hydrangeas as I suggested. The peonies were Amanda's choice, I replied with a smile that felt stretched across my face. Yes. Well, it all came together adequately. With that assessment, she glided away to greet other guests. By noon, the room was filled with 60 women in spring dresses, the noise level rising with each glass of champagne poured. I found myself directed to a table near the back, not at the head table where Amanda sat with her bridesmaids and Catherine. Patricia arrived and took the seat beside me, her expression darkening as she surveyed the arrangement. "This is ridiculous," she muttered. "You're the mother of the bride and the person paying for all of this. You should be at Amanda's table." "It's fine," I said, though it wasn't. "Let's just try to enjoy the day." The formal program began with Jessica tapping her glass for attention. "Ladies, welcome to Amanda's bridal shower. I'm Jessica Martin, Amanda's maid of honor and sorority sister from Alpha Phi. We are so thrilled to celebrate our gorgeous bride-to-be, as she prepares to marry the amazing Bradley Preston in what will absolutely be the wedding of the year." The next hour was a parade of exclusionary references and inside jokes. Jessica recounted stories from college that I'd never heard. Bridesmaids shared memories of vacations I hadn't known Amanda had taken. Throughout it all, Catherine Preston nodded approvingly while occasionally whispering to her friends. During the games portion, guests were asked to answer trivia questions about Amanda and Bradley's relationship. I was embarrassed to realize how many I got wrong. Basic details about their first date, favorite restaurants, vacation spots. Had Amanda stopped sharing these things with me, or had I stopped listening? As lunch was served, I overheard snippets of conversation from nearby tables. "Which one is the mother of the bride again?" "The older woman in the blue dress." "No, not Catherine, the other one." "I heard she's paying for the whole wedding. Must be nice to have that kind of money to throw around." "Amanda says she's been so controlling about everything, trying to relive her own wedding or something." I focused on my salad, pretending not to hear. Patricia squeezed my hand under the table. The worst moment came during a break between lunch and dessert. I had stepped away to use the restroom and encountered two of Amanda's bridesmaids touching up their makeup at the mirrors. "God, I can't believe Amanda's mom chose this venue," one said, not noticing me in the doorway. "So stuffy and traditional." "I know, right?" the other replied. "But Catherine says she insisted on the country club, even though Amanda wanted that cute downtown loft space. Apparently, she's trying to impress Bradley's family or something." I quietly backed out of the restroom, my cheeks burning. The country club had been Catherine's choice, not mine. I had actually suggested the downtown loft but been overruled. Somehow, I had become the villain in a story that wasn't even true. When I returned to the main room, it was time for gift opening. I sat with a fixed smile as Amanda unwrapped monogrammed linens, crystal vases, and silver picture frames. My heart pounded as she reached for my gift, the small box carefully wrapped in silver paper. "This is from my mom," she announced, barely glancing my way as she tore open the wrapping. She opened the box and pulled out the sapphire necklace, holding it up for a moment. "It's antique," I called from my table. "It was your great-grandmother's. I had it reset for you." "Oh, thanks," Amanda said, already setting it aside to reach for the next gift. She hadn't read the card, hadn't acknowledged the significance of the family heirloom. Patricia's hand found mine again, squeezing hard enough to hurt. I drew a deep breath, reminding myself that this wasn't the time or place for confrontation. Just get through the rest of the event, I told myself. Just smile and get through it. After the mountain of gifts had been opened and catalogued by one of the bridesmaids, Jessica once again took center stage. She raised her champagne glass and called for attention. "Now, before we enjoy this amazing cake, our beautiful bride-to-be would like to say a few words." She handed the microphone to Amanda with a flourish. Amanda stood, smoothing her white lace dress, her smile dazzling as she looked around the room. For a moment, I felt a surge of maternal pride. Despite everything, she was my daughter, confident and poised, ready to start a new chapter in her life. "Thank you all so much for coming today," Amanda began. "This has been such a special celebration, and I'm grateful to each of you for being part of it." She began acknowledging various people, her future mother-in-law, for her impeccable taste and guidance, Her bridesmaids for being the most amazing support system a girl could ask for. Bradley's sisters for welcoming me into the family with open arms. I waited for my name, for some acknowledgement of my contribution. But Amanda had moved on to thanking the venue staff and commenting on the gifts she'd received. As she was wrapping up, she seemed to remember something and gave a little laugh. "Oh, and I guess I should thank my mom too," she said, gesturing vaguely in my direction. Her tone had shifted, becoming slightly dismissive. "Mom's only here because she paid for the food." There was a beat of silence, then scattered laughter from the tables near the front. Catherine's friends, Bradley's sisters, a few of the bridesmaids. Amanda smiled, clearly pleased with her joke. The room suddenly felt airless. I could feel eyes turning toward me, some curious, some pitying, a few openly amused. Patricia's hand gripped my wrist so tightly I would later find bruises. "Don't you dare let that stand," she whispered fiercely. But I couldn't move. I was frozen in my chair, Amanda's words echoing in my ears. "Mom's only here because she paid for the food." A lifetime of love, sacrifice, and support reduced to financial transaction. In front of 60 witnesses. I thought of the nights I'd stayed up with Amanda when she had ear infections as a toddler. The school projects I'd helped with, the tears I'd wiped away after teenage heartbreaks, the college applications I'd proofread. I thought of the checks I'd written not just for this shower, but for her education, her first car, the security deposit on her first apartment. All of it done with love. None of it done for recognition, but certainly not deserving of public mockery. In that moment something broke inside me. Not my heart, though that was certainly cracked. No, what broke was the dam I'd built to hold back my self-respect, my dignity, my unwillingness to be treated as less than I deserved. I could feel my face flushing, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. The room seemed to tilt slightly, voices around me becoming muffled as if I were underwater. I recognized the symptoms of humiliation. I'd felt them before in my life, but never delivered by my own child. Jessica had reclaimed the microphone and was saying something about the cake cutting, but her words barely registered. I was aware of Patricia next to me, tense as a coiled spring. I was aware of Catherine Preston's satisfied smirk. Most of all, I was aware of Amanda, already turning away, already forgetting the casual cruelty of her remark as she rejoined her bridesmaids. In the slow-motion clarity that sometimes comes in moments of crisis, I saw my options with perfect clarity. I could sit quietly, swallow the insult, and continue to be the convenient bankroll for a daughter who didn't respect me. I could make a scene, yell or cry, and confirm everyone's impression of me as the difficult, controlling mother Amanda had apparently described to her friends. Or I could respond with the quiet dignity I'd tried to model for my daughter throughout her life. The decision crystallized in an instant. I wouldn't leave and I wouldn't rage. But I would no longer be silent. I reached for my purse. My handbag sat on the table beside me, a simple leather tote that contained the usual items: wallet, keys, phone, lipstick. It also contained the catering invoice I'd signed just 2 hours earlier. The paper was folded neatly, tucked into a side pocket where I'd placed it without much thought. Now my fingers closed around it with purpose. I withdrew the invoice and stood up slowly, smoothing my dress as I rose. Patricia shot me a questioning look. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "What I should have done a long time ago," I replied. The room was buzzing with conversation as Jessica directed everyone's attention to the cake table. No one noticed as I made my way toward the front of the room, the invoice clutched in my hand. No one except Catherine Preston, whose eyes narrowed as she tracked my movement across the floor. When I reached the area where Amanda stood with her bridesmaids, I paused, waiting for a natural break in Jessica's enthusiastic description of the custom cake flavors. When she finally took a breath, I stepped forward. "Excuse me," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "May I borrow the microphone for a moment?" Jessica looked startled, glancing at Amanda as if seeking permission. Amanda's expression was a mix of surprise and annoyance. "Mom, we're about to cut the cake," she said. "This will only take a minute," I replied, holding Jessica's gaze until she reluctantly handed over the microphone. The room quieted as I turned to face the gathered guests. I could feel my heart racing but was determined not to show it. I had spent decades in corporate boardrooms, holding my own among men who underestimated me. I could certainly handle this room of women. Good afternoon, everyone, I began. For those who don't know me, I'm Eleanor Montgomery, Amanda's mother. First, I want to thank you all for coming to celebrate my daughter's upcoming marriage. It means so much to see her surrounded by people who care about her. I paused, looking directly at Amanda, whose expression had shifted from annoyance to wariness. Amanda, you've grown into a beautiful, accomplished woman, and I am incredibly proud of you. I've always tried to show you that a person's worth isn't measured by their bank account or social connections, but by their character and how they treat others. The room was absolutely silent now. I could feel Catherine shifting uncomfortably in her seat to my right. A few moments ago, you joked that I'm only here because I paid for the food. While that got a laugh, it wasn't entirely accurate. I unfolded the invoice in my hand. I'm actually here because I paid for everything. The food, the flowers, the premium bar, the custom desserts, the photographer, all of it. I held up the paper so Amanda could see the total at the bottom. Her eyes widened slightly. I didn't do this for recognition or gratitude. I did it because I love you and wanted to make this day special for you. But love without respect isn't healthy for either of us. I took a step closer to Amanda and held out the invoice. So here's the catering bill. Since my only value here is financial, you can handle this part yourself. Or perhaps Catherine would like to, since she made many of the decisions about how my money would be spent. Amanda stared at the paper as if it might bite her. Mom, what are you doing? She hissed. Setting a boundary, I replied, still holding out the invoice. Something I should have done long ago. From across the room came the sound of a chair scraping back. Bradley had arrived, timing his entrance for the cake cutting as planned. He strode toward us, his handsome face clouded with confusion. What's going on? He asked, looking between Amanda and me. Mrs. Montgomery is making a scene, Catherine called from her table, her voice tight with controlled anger. I'm not making a scene, I corrected calmly. I'm making a point about respect, something that seems to be in short supply today. Bradley's face flushed red. You can't do this to Amanda on her special day, he snapped, moving to put his arm around my daughter's shoulders. This is completely inappropriate. I regarded him steadily. What's inappropriate, Bradley, is allowing someone to financially support you while treating them as an inconvenience. Both of you have done that consistently throughout your engagement. That's not true. Amanda protested, though her voice lacked conviction. It is true, I said gently. And I've allowed it because I was afraid of losing you completely. But that approach isn't working for either of us. I set the microphone down on the nearest table and placed the invoice beside it. I'll always be your mother, and I'll always love you. But I won't be your ATM anymore. When you're ready to have a relationship based on mutual respect, I'll be waiting. With that, I turned and walked toward the exit, my head high despite the tears threatening to spill over. I could hear Bradley behind me, his voice raised in anger. This is outrageous. Do you know how embarrassing this is? I didn't turn around. I didn't need to see Amanda's face to know she was mortified, or Catherine's to know she was furious. The only face I cared about in that moment was the one I would see in the mirror. A woman who had finally stood up for herself. Patricia caught up with me in the foyer, linking her arm through mine as we walked to the parking lot. I am so proud of you, she said quietly. The tears I'd been holding back finally spilled over. Did I just ruin everything? I asked. No, Patricia said firmly. You just took the first step toward fixing it. As I drove home alone, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. The grief was for the relationship I'd hoped to have with my daughter, the one I'd tried to buy with checkbooks and silence. The liberation was from the pretense that any of it was working. Whatever happened next would at least be honest. And that, I realized, was worth more than any amount of money I could have spent. The hours after I left the bridal shower passed in a surreal haze. I drove home on autopilot, parked in my garage, and sat in the silent car for several minutes, replaying the scene in my mind. Had I overreacted? Had I irreparably damaged my relationship with Amanda? The questions swirled as I finally made my way inside. I kicked off my heels, made a cup of tea, and tried to process what had happened. The house felt unusually quiet, the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway marking the passage of time as I sat motionless on the sofa. My phone, which I'd silenced during the drive home, began to vibrate incessantly on the coffee table. A quick glance showed a barrage of notifications. 6 missed calls from Amanda, 3 from Bradley, 2 from Catherine, and several text messages demanding I call immediately. I silenced the phone again and set it aside. Whatever conversation came next, I wasn't ready for it yet. I needed time to gather my thoughts and prepare for the inevitable confrontation. Patricia called on my landline an hour later. "You missed quite a show after you left," she said without preamble. Bradley was absolutely livid. "Kept demanding that Amanda call you to fix this immediately." Catherine tried to salvage things by announcing she would cover the catering bill, which only made Amanda burst into tears. "I didn't mean to ruin the event," I said, a twinge of guilt surfacing despite my resolve. "You didn't ruin anything," Patricia insisted. "That shower was ruined the moment they decided to treat you like an outsider at an event you were hosting. You just refused to play along with the charade." After we hung up, I took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away the stress of the day. I had just changed into comfortable clothes when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see Amanda and Bradley standing on my porch, both still dressed in their shower attire, their expressions tense. For a brief moment, I considered not answering. But avoiding confrontation had led to this situation in the first place. I took a deep breath and opened the door. "How could you do that to me?" Amanda demanded before I could even greet them. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her makeup smudged. "You completely humiliated me in front of everyone." Bradley stood slightly behind her, arms crossed, jaw clenched in barely controlled anger. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "Let's not have this conversation on the porch." They followed me to the living room, though neither sat when I gestured to the sofa. Amanda remained standing, arms wrapped around herself as if for protection. "I want an explanation," she said, her voice quavering between anger and hurt. "And an apology. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I met my daughter's gaze steadily. "I think I should be asking you that question, Amanda. Do you have any idea how your comment made me feel?" "It was just a joke," she exclaimed. "Everyone was laughing and having a good time, and you had to make it into this huge dramatic scene." "It wasn't just a joke to me," I replied. "It was the culmination of months, years, really, of being sidelined in your life while still being expected to finance it." Bradley stepped forward, his expression darkening. "This is ridiculous. You're acting like a victim when you're the one who ruined Amanda's bridal shower. Her friends are texting her saying it was the most awkward thing they've ever witnessed." "I'm sorry they were uncomfortable," I said. "But I'm not sorry I finally stood up for myself." "Stood up for yourself?" Bradley scoffed. "From what? Having a daughter who's marrying into a good family? Who's having a beautiful wedding that you should be proud to contribute to?" His condescension ignited something in me. "That contribution you speak of so casually represents years of my hard work. Work that has apparently earned me the right to be mocked by my own daughter in public." Amanda's face crumpled. "I didn't mean it like that, Mom. It was just a stupid joke. I was nervous and it just came out. Things that just come out usually reveal what we're actually thinking," I said quietly. "And I think what came out today is that you see me as a checkbook, not as your mother." "That's not true. I love you." "I know you do in your way," I acknowledged. "But you don't respect me. And without respect, love becomes toxic." Bradley made a dismissive sound. "This is all very dramatic. The point is, you created a scene that embarrassed Amanda and her family. Now you need to fix it. Call Catherine and apologize. Then we can all move past this." I looked at him incredulously. "Apologize to Catherine? For what exactly?" "For disrupting the event she worked so hard to coordinate," he said, as if explaining something to a child. "For making a financial issue public when it should have been handled privately." "Bradley," I said carefully, "Catherine didn't coordinate anything. She dictated how my money would be spent without consulting me. And Amanda made the financial issue public, not me. I simply responded to it." Amanda stepped between us, clearly sensing the rising tension. "Mom, please. The wedding is in 5 weeks. We need to resolve this now." "I agree," I said. "But resolution doesn't mean returning to the status quo." It means establishing new boundaries that include mutual respect. What does that even mean? She demanded. What do you want from me? Acknowledgement, I replied. Acknowledgement that I've been treated poorly throughout this engagement. Acknowledgement that your comment today was hurtful and inappropriate. And a commitment to change how we interact going forward. Amanda looked stunned, as if the idea that she might need to change had never occurred to her. Bradley, however, had heard enough. This is absurd, he declared. Amanda doesn't need to grovel for your approval. If you can't be supportive without all these conditions, maybe you shouldn't be involved in the wedding at all. The room went silent. Amanda turned to him, shock evident on her face. Bradley. He stood his ground. I'm serious. I won't have you stressed and upset for the next 5 weeks because your mother is having some kind of midlife crisis. I'm 67, Bradley, I said dryly. I'm well past midlife. This isn't a crisis. It's a long overdue awakening. Amanda looked between us, clearly torn. Finally, she faced me, her expression hardening. Mom, I need you to apologize to me, to Bradley, and to his mother. If you can't do that, then maybe Bradley's right. Maybe you shouldn't come to the wedding. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. For a moment I considered giving in, as I had so many times before. It would be easier. It would avoid conflict. It would keep Amanda in my life, at least physically if not emotionally. But I knew with sudden clarity that capitulating now would only cement the dysfunctional pattern we'd established. Nothing would change. I would remain the checkbook, occasionally trotted out for appearances but never truly valued. I can't do that, Amanda, I said softly. I won't apologize for finally standing up for myself. If that means I'm not welcome at your wedding, then that's a consequence I'll have to accept. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. So that's it? You're choosing your pride over your only daughter's wedding day. No, I correcta Janli. I'm choosing self-respect over enabling behavior that hurts both of us. The door is always open when you're ready to have an honest conversation about how we move forward. Bradley took Amanda's arm. Let's go. This is clearly a waste of time. As they turned to leave, I called after them. Amanda, I love you. That hasn't changed. It never will. She paused briefly at the door but didn't turn around. Bradley ushered her out, and the door closed behind them with a decisive click. The house felt even emptier after they left. I sat in my living room as darkness fell, not bothering to turn on the lights. The weight of what had just happened, being uninvited from my only child's wedding, pressed on my chest until it was hard to breathe. But beneath the pain was something else. A quiet certainty that I had done the right thing. For perhaps the first time in our adult relationship, I had modeled for Amanda that love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. Whether she would learn from that example remained to be seen. The days that followed were difficult. I threw myself into work, taking on extra consulting projects to fill the hours. I joined a gym, started seeing a therapist, and had dinner with Patricia twice a week. On her suggestion, I joined a support group for parents with difficult adult children, finding unexpected comfort in the stories of others navigating similar terrain. A week after the shower, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Montgomery, this is James Preston, Bradley's father. I wanted to say privately that I understand your position more than you might think. Family dynamics can be complicated. If there's anything I can do to help mediate, please let me know. I was touched by the unexpected outreach but declined his offer. This was between Amanda and me. No one else could resolve it for us. 3 weeks passed with no contact from my daughter. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard the wedding preparations were continuing as planned. My initial financial contributions had already been made and were apparently being used, though no additional requests came my way. Then 2 days before the wedding, my phone rang late in the evening. Amanda's name appeared on the screen. I answered immediately. Mom. Her voice was small, uncertain. Can we talk? Of course we can talk, I said, my heart racing with hope and apprehension. Do you want to come over? I can be there in 20 minutes, Amanda replied, her voice tight with what sounded like unshed tears. While waiting, I made a pot of tea, the same chamomile blend I used to prepare when Amanda had nightmares as a child. Some maternal instincts never fade, regardless of the circumstances. When the doorbell rang, I opened it to find my daughter looking exhausted. Her normally perfect appearance was disheveled. Hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, face free of makeup, dressed in jeans and a sweatshirt rather than her usual designer clothes. "Hi, Mom," she said quietly. I opened my arms without a word, and after a moment's hesitation, she stepped into them. We stood in the doorway embracing, both of us trembling slightly with emotion. Inside, I poured tea into the mugs we'd used for countless mother-daughter conversations over the years. Her favorite blue ceramic one with stars, my chipped one with "World's Best Mom" faded from years of washing. Amanda cupped her hands around the mug, staring into the steaming liquid, as if it might contain answers. "I don't even know where to begin," she finally said. "How about with what brought you here tonight?" I suggested gently. She took a shaky breath. "The wedding's in 2 days and everything's falling apart. Not the arrangements. Those are perfect, of course. Catherine made sure of that." A hint of bitterness colored her tone. "It's everything else. Bradley and I had a huge fight last night about the seating chart, of all things. But it wasn't really about the seating chart." "What was it about?" I asked, though I suspected I already knew. "You," she admitted. "Your empty seat. The fact that my mother won't be at my wedding. Bradley says I should just accept it and move on, that I don't need you there if you're going to be difficult." She looked up, her eyes swimming with tears. "But I do need you there, Mom. Ido." The simple admission broke something open between us. A door that had been gradually closing for years, now cracked open enough to let in a sliver of light. "What changed?" I asked carefully. Amanda set down her mug. "These past 3 weeks have been clarifying. Without you around, I've had to deal with Catherine taking over completely. There's no buffer anymore. No one to balance her intensity." "I imagine that's been challenging," I said, trying to keep judgment out of my voice. "It's been a nightmare," Amanda confessed. "She questions every decision, changes arrangements without asking, talks over me in vendor meetings. And Bradley." She hesitated. "Bradley expects me to just go along with whatever his mother wants. He keeps saying this is how things are done in our family." I nodded, unsurprised but saddened by the confirmation of what I'd suspected about my future son-in-law. "Yesterday," Amanda continued, "I suggested we move our Sunday brunches with his parents to twice a month instead of weekly after the wedding, and you'd think I'd suggested canceling Christmas. Bradley accused me of not being committed to his family. That's when I realized I'm not allowed to have boundaries with his family, but he has no problem cutting out mine." She looked at me directly, her gaze clearer than it had been in months. "The thing is, Mom, I didn't even realize I needed boundaries until you showed me it was possible. When you walked out of that shower with your head held high, part of me was mortified, but another part was, I don't know, impressed. Boundaries aren't about controlling others," I said softly. "They're about protecting yourself from being harmed." It took me 67 years and a very painful moment to learn that lesson. Amanda reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm so sorry about what I said at the shower. It was cruel and dismissive and completely untrue. You've been so much more than a checkbook to me. You've been my mother, flawed sometimes, overprotective maybe, but always loving, always there." Tears pricked my eyes. "Thank you for saying that. I've made plenty of mistakes, Amanda. Maybe I gave you too much materially and not enough guidance about what really matters. Maybe I let your father's wealth and absence distort your perception of love and support." "It wasn't just you," Amanda admitted. "I chose this path too. I liked the status that came with Bradley's world. I liked being the girl who had everything. It became addictive, the exclusivity, the luxury, the envy from others. But the cost." She shook her head. "The cost has been my authenticity, and nearly my relationship with you." We talked for hours that night, peeling back layers of misunderstanding and hurt that had accumulated over years. Amanda shared her insecurities about measuring up to Bradley's family's expectations. I confessed my fear of becoming irrelevant in her life. We cried together, laughed a little, and gradually found our way back to the connection we'd once had. As midnight approached, the inevitable question surfaced. "What happens now?" Amanda asked. "The wedding is in 2 days. Everyone knows about our fight. Catherine has been telling people you're indisposed. Whatever that means. I smiled wryly. A polite way of saying I've lost my mind, I suppose. Mom, I want you at my wedding. Not just in the audience, but beside me, where you belong. The invitation warmed my heart, but I needed to be sure. And Bradley? How does he feel about this reconciliation? Amanda's expression clouded. He'll have to accept it. Actually, we have a lot to figure out, Bradley and I. Some things have become very clear to me in these past weeks about our relationship. But that's for us to work through after the wedding. I nodded, recognizing the determination in her voice, the same tone I'd used when I finally stood up for myself at the shower. Whatever happened with Bradley, I sensed my daughter was finding her own strength. I'd be honored to be at your wedding, I said. But Amanda, going forward, we need to commit to honesty and respect. Both of us. I won't go back to how things were. I don't want to go back either, she said firmly. I want something better. For both of us. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful. I wore the elegant navy dress I'd purchased months earlier, my grandmother's pearls at my throat. Catherine's carefully orchestrated seating plan had been revised to include me in the front row, a change that she accepted with tight-lipped civility. Bradley was coolly polite when I arrived at the church, his handshake formal, his eyes assessing. Whatever Amanda had said to him had secured my place at the wedding, but clearly hadn't won his enthusiasm. That was fine. My relationship with my daughter wasn't contingent on his approval. The ceremony was beautiful, as meticulously perfect as one would expect from a Preston family event. But the most meaningful moment came during the reception, when the DJ announced the mother-daughter dance. As Amanda and I swayed to Wind Beneath My Wings, her childhood favorite, she whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." "I never could," I replied. "No matter what." A year has passed since that wedding day. Amanda and Bradley are still married, though I know they've struggled with the boundaries she's established with his family. Catherine and I maintain a cordial relationship, finding common ground in our love for Amanda if nothing else. Most importantly, my daughter and I have rebuilt our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect. We have a standing lunch date every Wednesday. She calls just to chat, not only when she needs something. I've learned to listen more and judge less. She's learned to consider how her words and actions affect others. Last week, Amanda came to lunch with news. She's pregnant with my first grandchild. As we celebrated with sparkling cider, she looked at me thoughtfully. "You know what I keep thinking about? That bridal shower. As painful as it was the wake-up call I needed. Sometimes the hardest moments lead to the most important growth." I couldn't have said it better myself. The path to healing isn't always straight or easy, but it's worth every difficult step. Love without respect isn't really love at all. It's dependence, it's obligation, it's habit. True love honors boundaries, acknowledges mistakes, and always leaves room for growth. If you've ever had to stand up for yourself with someone you love, I hope my story has resonated with you. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply say enough, and then open our hearts to whatever comes next. I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Has there been a time when you had to set a difficult boundary with family? How did it change your relationship? Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story touched you, and share it with someone who might need to hear that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. Sometimes, it's the most loving thing you can do. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, it's never too late to rewrite the rules of how others treat you.